Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics, where we do just what the title says. We go inside Furman Athletics. I'm Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. This week, we are going to spend some time with Doug Allison, the 28-year head coach of the men's soccer program here at Furman. It's one of my favorite conversations on and off the air every time we get a chance to talk, because Doug knows nothing about baseball, and he tells me I know nothing about soccer, and we get along just fine.
That's the best way to keep it, Dan. 28 years of knowing nothing is that's good for you.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thanks. It's always good to see you.
It is
good.
It is great to see you.
On a day like this, look at this.
Isn't it gorgeous? As we're recording this, as we always do on Tuesday, and the episode drops in the early afternoon on Tuesday. Looking at the weather we have right now, you never know that it's going to change dramatically according to the forecast and the hurricane, the residual area of it that's coming in our direction within the next 48 to 72 hours.
Yeah, that may affect a few games this weekend, yeah?
Yes, it could.
Yep.
It could. How are things been? First chance we've had to get to catch up this year. Things well?
Everything's good. Yeah, we're halfway through the season. It just happens so fast, you know. I think we've done pretty good so far. We got a good crop of youngsters in, and good senior leadership this year. Some good captains, and really happy with that. We've played some tough teams, and hopefully get ready for conference.
So it's always, I would imagine you tell me, when you're trying to establish and maintain a program, as opposed to some schools in various sports who will load up now, especially in the transfer portal, and try to win immediately to do different things. But if you're going to establish and maintain a program like you have over 28 years, you have to have that balance you just talked about of the young and the old on your roster, don't you?
Yeah, I like the program. I like the alumni. I like where we are with the guys. I like the fact that a lot of alumni come and talk to our team. When they come through, they want to talk to the team, and the team get to know them. And since COVID's kind of moved its ugly head a little bit away, we've been able to have guys come in. Even preseason, when we were down in Jacksonville, we had a pregame meal at one of the alumni's house, Matt Foxhall, and then Andy Kidd came over and talked to the team at breakfast the next day. We had a couple of guys out in Houston the following week when we were out there. Mark Futrell and Zach Jackson came out and talked to the guys and said hello, and it's great to catch up with those alumni. I just don't remember what years they're in. I mean, it's just because it's been so many years that I have to introduce them to each other sometimes, and they're like, Coach, we were roommates in school. Yeah. But I love the fact that they want to come back. They come back. Our alumni game last spring was amazing, Dan. We had probably about 60 or 70 guys come back, including Clint Dempsey with his kids, and joining in the game, and it was fantastic to have that many guys come and bring their wives and kids.
Did they complain about playing time?
Absolutely, they always do. They're soccer players. They're athletes. Everyone complains about playing time. It's always my fault.
Of course, you're the guy that makes the decisions, right?
Yeah.
In theory, anyway.
In theory, yeah.
5-2-1 out of the gate, and conference season opens on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a moment, but. Are you happy with that start to the season? I know you're not happy with the most recent outing, the 3-1 loss at Coastal.
I was very happy the way we played. I wasn't happy with the result, but we had 80% of the possession and one goal, and that's not good. And we missed some chances early on. Even I watched the game, as I do again and again on ESPN, and after the game, in the first 25 minutes, we were in their half and hit the bar twice and missed a couple of chances, and then they broke away and scored. And it's heartbreaking. Soccer's a cruel game, Dan. You'll learn that. It really is. But then we got a goal back, and then they counterattacked and got one before halftime. But second half, we came out and played well again, missed a couple of chances, but then they broke away and scored a third. So we've got to be careful on counterattacks. Obviously, we've got to shore that up. But they're a good team, and they're a big team. They were a lot of, I think, basketball players in the wrong sport playing for them the other day. There's a 6'6", 6'8", 6'5" guys playing. And I'm like, that's typically not soccer players, you know. But I like the way we've been playing. The 3 of the 4 games before that, we had shutouts, we had good wins, and very balanced group of guys. getting a couple of guys back from injury, hopefully in the next couple of weeks if we can, and that should help. But no, I'm pleased with the teams we've played. I'm pleased with the attitude of the guys. I'm pleased, how we've started the last 2 or 3 games, because in the last game we scored. One guy, Alfredo, scored a hat trick in 25 minutes and scored after 2 minutes, which is always a good start in a game. So that was unfortunate to have that game on Sunday afternoon, which is an unusual time to have a game, by the way.
So you mentioned a good senior group, good leadership group. Who are some of those guys who are providing that leadership for your team?
Well, it's funny. I talked to Walker Zimmerman about this, what they do on the national team. And I said, how do you pick your captains? Because I've noticed that in World Cup qualifying, you guys have had different captains every game. He said we have a leadership group. And so there's typically 1, 2, or 3 different captains who could be captain, but there's 5 or 6 guys who are on the leadership group that are in charge of different aspects of the camp as they come in for the camp. One guy may be in charge of kind of the keepers, the defensive guys. One guy may be in charge of some of the rookies that are coming in, have never got a cap before, have never played on the national team before. And 2 or 3 guys are potential captains for the certain game, whether it's in Mexico, whether it's in Panama, whether it's a home game, wherever it is. I'm like, this is interesting. So we talked a lot about that, and so I said, well, let me try that with us. Josh Hosey, who's a junior from Wales, Dylan Lane, who's a senior from Raleigh, and Callum Holland, who's a senior from England as well. They're our captains, and they will be on the field as captains. But Callum Allison, who's is a senior, Luke Tandy, who's a senior as well from England, and Sammy Miller from Houston. There are other leadership group of guys. So if there's ever a decision to be made, preseason, training, academics, FCA, what we're doing as a team, community service, we've got it all covered by guys that can have leadership roles within the team that appeal to different guys on the team. Mm-hmm. So I like what Walker was talking about, so we're trying it this year.
As you were going through those names, you just kind of glossed over the kid with the last name Allison. You want to talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, he's a special kid. I get emotional when I talk about
yeah.
this.
Well, as a proud dad,
yeah,
should.
And sometimes I don't realize he's actually my kid because I was he's
much more talented.
Yeah, he's a lot more talented in a lot of different ways than I ever was. That's for sure, Dan. But he. Really proud of him. He's in pre-med. He's doing a great job with his academics, but really proud he's president of FCA, and I really want to thank Hamp System for mentoring Callum into that role. And the cross between the football and our football last year was amazing to see how one student athlete can mentor another student athlete from another sport into now mentoring other kids. And we had a game a couple of weeks ago on a Tuesday night when we just finished. We won the game. I usually give him a hug before he leaves, and I couldn't find him. And then I get a text that night from Bob Ritchie, who was the FCA speaker that night, who Callum had set up. And he said, I can't believe your son actually finished the game, came over to FCA and finished FCA the same night and helped me FCA. He goes, that's unusual for someone, because usually a typical kid would say, no, I've got a game, I've got an excuse. But he left his game, came over with a couple of the other boys on the team, and finished up the FCA meeting and said, that you should be proud of your son. I'm like, are you sure that's my son? Said, but I am. I'm extremely proud of him, and he's done a great job here. And walk around campus, everyone seems to know him, and I think it's in a positive way. So he touches a lot of different, whether it's academics or FCA or athletics. So it's nice to hear other coaches compliment your son too.
Has it been a challenge in any way coaching your son?
I love it. I actually asked
because that can be a difficult dynamic.
Yeah, it is, and I'll tell you one story. Before he's brought up around Furman. I've been here 28 years, right? And he's been brought up around our soccer field. And I talked to several different coaches in our profession and said who have either coached their son or not coached their son. And a couple of them said, be careful. Be careful because, it's your son. It could put a lot of pressure on him and you. And so I said to Callum, I said, you're in the locker room downstairs underneath me, and there's a lot of times those guys are going to be talking about me, and that's your dad. And he goes, they'd be saying, Coach is a bit of a whatever. And he goes, Dad, I already know that. I said, well, okay, you can be on the team. But he knows he's not going to get playing time because he's my son. He knows he's not going to get any advantage. In fact, it may be a little bit less because I don't want to appear that way.
Right.
But so that's a disadvantage. But you know what? When we're in training, he's a player.
Now, when you said that, he said he already knew that. He knew they were going to say you were a so and so, or he knew you were a so and so. Okay,
he knew I was a so and so, and he knew they were going to say that.
I felt like we needed to clarify that. Visiting with Doug Allison, the men's soccer coach here at Furman. You have, and this is true with every collegiate program. You have to be a multi-purpose tool, so to speak. You're coaching the season that you're in now, and you're having to deal with everything you have to deal with as a head coach, which includes at times being an amateur psychologist. Mm-hmm. But also you continue to recruit. Yep. And you were telling me, I can't mention any names or anything until names are signed on the dotted line, but the recruiting class by the people who rate classes for next year, the incoming class of 23, right now is ranked 5th in the country?
5th in the country, yeah. And I've got to give a lot of credit to Brandon Tucker, my assistant, who he was out beating the bushes. We were looking at different kids, particularly through the COVID. It was very tough at that time to look at those kids, but he did a lot of good homework, watched a lot of tape as we had to because we couldn't get out there and the kids weren't allowed on campus. So the recruiting class is currently number 5. It may go up. Just had another commitment yesterday from a boy that was here this weekend, but can't tell you who they are. Can tell you that they're from the Texas area, and one of the boys that's here is this year, and one of the boys that came in the year before. Reese came in a year ago. Slade Starnes is here this year, who's just a fantastic player for FC Dallas. But there's a couple of more boys coming from that area, that kind of club, and they're on the national team right now. They're in some good positions, and good players want to play with good players.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, good players want to play, but good kids want to be with good kids, mm-hmm. and good students want to study with good students. It's amazing how that works, and it morphs into just an incredible culture. And there are national team kids that you would say are good players, but you just don't want them on your team. They say in the like one enemy within the camp is worse than having 30 enemies outside it, mm-hmm. and within the tent and stuff. But so it's good to not have those in there and bring in the right kids. And we've been very lucky. But Brandon Tucker's done a fantastic job identifying these kids and bringing me in at the right times. And we were out in L.A. recruiting and brought in another really good player, LaShawn Brown, who's a freshman as well. And those kids have really stepped up as freshmen this year already on the team. The kids coming in next year, I'm really looking forward to having them. But they're good kids. They're good students, but I'm excited for people to see them play.
So when we talk about you having the number 5 recruiting class in the country, who is that putting you in company with as far as other soccer powers around the country? Who are some of those other top 5 programs?
Duke's up there, UCLA, Stanford, Wake Forest, Virginia. They're the 5 or 6 around us right now.
So just some small nondescript schools, right?
But that's okay because a lot of these guys are they visited those schools too, but mm-hmm. they liked it here. They love the campus. Parents come on campus here and they love it, and I tell them their parents that they can play golf free as well, so that's always a good little joke. But and then Clint Dempsey, we told him he could fish in the lake, which was illegal, but he's a bass fisherman, so you got to tell them, they can do certain things on campus, but it's incredible to have them come in and then the next guy follow them. You got to find the catalyst that year, and we found the right guy, and a lot of guys wanted to follow him. And again, Brandon Tucker was very smart and astute in getting the right guy first, and that's the key to recruiting: finding that catalyst, finding the champion.
Visiting with Doug Allison on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics, talking about the men's soccer program here. Recruiting is the lifeblood of a program. The other source of life, obviously, is financially being able to compete. And here in the last month or so, in recent weeks, we have announced some folks who have really stepped up to help your program, and I know you wanted to take a moment to talk about that.
No, I appreciate that. And we just announced the Charlie Arndt, Coach Charlie Arndt Scholarship, which Charlie's been my assistant, my volunteer assistant for 28 years. He was a teammate of mine at South Carolina and was a goalkeeper, was a terrific goalkeeper. He was the goalkeeper of the year in America in '88 when he finished up, played pro in Germany, and then moved to Greenville. And when I came here, he got in touch with me. He said, "Can I help out?" I'm like, "Absolutely, but I'm not paying you." You know, yeah, but he's paid what he's worth, I think. So he's volunteered for 28 years. But one of the goalkeepers in particular called me last year and said, "I want to do something." He changed my life, he said, when I was here. And in fact, he ended up, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but he got the marriage license. He married this guy and his wife as well. And so he's had an incredible impact on students. It's not just the goalkeepers, but particularly the goalkeepers. Mm-hmm. And so this one guy got in touch with all the goalkeepers that Charlie's coached over the 28 years and said, let's get a scholarship in his name. And this guy put the majority into it, but everyone was willing to say, yes, he helped me in this way, helped me in this way. Alec Kahn, who's currently playing in the MLS for Cincinnati right now, was like, I mean, he had a little quote in the article as well and said, the impact he had on me about working hard and work ethic and pulling yourself up when you're down really helped me in my life, particularly in the MLS when a lot of people said no. Right. And I had to go to another club and they said no because I'm a goalie. And then I got a chance and then I got injured. And then I went to another club and now I've been 9 years in the league and now I'm starting in the MLS with Atlanta. Now I'm at Cincinnati, started a new club. And he goes, a lot of that was down to Charlie's perseverance, and having the right work ethic. So a lot of these guys to have done that for Charlie, and he's president of Fifth Third Bank down in Greenville, and that's what he does for a living. But we love it when he comes out and helps, and and then we had the Walker Zimmerman one as well. Mm-hmm. We had that scholarship, and we had another one with Rob Victor. The Graham Seagrave, David May, the Spinks Company with Steve Spinks, they've all helped. And Steve's not an alumni, but the rest of them are. And this group of alumni just keep giving and want to help. And it's just amazing what they've done for our kids in our program now. It's humbling for me.
I had a chance to talk to Walker Zimmerman back in the summer when we did a brief summer spotlight series to try to keep folks engaged, and he was just a delight to talk with. And, cleared the time to do it, and it shows the respect he has for you and the program to want to do it. But I really enjoyed talking to him. He's a young man who seems to have it all together. Yeah,
he's from good stock. His parents are both work with missionaries and raise money for missionary trips in Atlanta still. And his brother was a very good athlete. He was a football player at a school across the way, an Orange school across the way, and was a good football player. He was a kicker, actually. And Walker came here and, he married Sally, who's a Furman girl as well. They got little Tucker, who's their baby now. And after the final game of Nashville last year, the next day, they show up and come talk to the team. He loves coming back. He's now captain of the U.S. national team. He's hopefully going to lead them in the World Cup this winter. Well, Black Friday, they play England. So the U.S. play England. So Walker actually texted me this when the draw came out and said, "Coach, I know who you're going to support." I said, "Yeah, Scotland." I got to be so neutral. It's got to be so careful on that.
You took the easy way out.
Absolutely.
I remember the first year that I worked covering Clemson in newspaper was 1999. Was Tommy Bowden's first year, and of course, when they played Florida State, it was the first quote unquote Bowden Bowl because Bobby was coaching Florida State then, and they were the kings of the ACC at the time. Mm-hmm. And Bobby's wife showed up to the game wearing a split sweater that was Florida State colors on one side and Clemson colors.
I got to get something
on the other.
I got to get a scarf or something. I need to get something made up. Yeah, and it's funny because
get an English jersey that says Zimmerman on the back.
That is maybe maybe because you know what, this may be a good window for him, an opportunity for him to be seen. Because I know a lot of Premier League clubs are interested in him anyway. I don't know if Nashville will give up their franchise player. So he's doing very well. But what a special young man! They call him like kind of the Tim Tebow of soccer. He's a faith-based, incredible young man that could have played anywhere and could have played a lot of different sports, but chose soccer. And it's funny with all his different hairstyles and that they're naming him Thor. They're naming all this stuff. He's a good-looking kid, and he's always on camera. Always at the end. My wife's like, "Why is he always on camera?" I'm like, "Well, you told me." He's kind of the face of the U.S. soccer team right now. It's amazing because we've had Clint Dempsey and Ricardo Clark before, but particularly with Clint being their 3 World Cups. Now Clint is working for CBS and interviewing Walker at the end of games. That's pretty cool.
All from little old Furman.
Yeah, and they know it. I mean, they all come back. Clint's back with he's expecting 5 or 6. He's got his 6th kid now. He's expecting, so he's been working hard.
More ways than one, apparently. Yeah. Doug Allison with us on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. We're going to zero right back in on the sport here as we come down the home stretch. Hey, look.
This could go anywhere, you said.
No, you're right. Yeah, and it is. Off the rails is where it appears to be headed. I mentioned that you have the conference opener coming up on Saturday, weather permitting.
Yep.
Again, with the hurricane right now, things are kind of up in the air, but weather permitting at UNCG. How does this conference stack up in your eyes?
Every game is going to be tough because I think every team is better. Every team is better. Greensboro ranked in the top 20 this week. They play Louisville tonight, so we'll see how that goes, and then come back. But they've been playing well. They lost their first game to Campbell last week, but they've beaten some good teams. They just beat Coastal 5-1. So they beat some good teams, but they're going to be tough at their place. Mercer's always tough. Wofford is a lot better this year. They've had a couple of good results. They went to High Point, who's a good team, and won. And ETSU have got a couple of good recruits in there as well, but that's going to be a tough game at noon at their place. So there's always tough games. Conference is tough. It's tough to win any college game now. It really is. It's getting tougher and tougher. So to win the conference is going to be hopefully a major feat this year if we can do that.
The other game that I want to highlight, and of course you can go to FurmanPaladins.com to see the remaining schedule, but the other game I want to highlight is the one that we talk about every year, which is my favorite game on your schedule, and I know it's the favorite of a lot of folks, and that's the Quinn game.
Yep.
The Princess will be making her way back on the 8th against Mercer. It's a week from Saturday.
Yep, she's in 3rd grade now. You
Unbelievable.
I talked to McNeil yesterday, McNeil Cronin yesterday, and said she's practicing already. She's practicing for that kickoff and that goal, and the Princess will be back, and it's amazing to see how I've got pictures in my office of her every year, and with McNeil and the team and stuff, and it's my favorite corner of my office. Of when recruits come in, there's a lot of professional jerseys behind them, and the kids, the recruits look at the wall net, but the parents look at the wall behind me. Mm-hmm. It's alumni, it's family, it's the Quinn game, it's mission trips to Haiti or Mexico, but my favorite is that Quinn game.
And for those who don't know, I'm sure most people do, but for those who don't know, Quinn Cronin, McNeil, her father, played here, and she has Down syndrome, and this has become a way to raise awareness for children with Down syndrome, and the work that McNeil has done in that area is just astounding. That we probably don't talk about enough, but it's just incredible. But this little girl comes back, and every year she scores a goal, no matter who defends her. And what I love about it is how it's grown, Doug. And the pre-COVID year, the last one that I was able to attend, looking out there, and there were, 30 or 40 youngsters with Down syndrome out there with their parents being introduced before the game and just having the time of their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's important. And we do the buddy walk with them most years. It's just fallen on the same day this year, so we can't do it that morning. But we typically do the buddy walk. Nia Zambrano, whose son Joe has Down syndrome, he lives down the end of my street. Oh, what an unbelievable kid. He's 18 now, Joe. But they come and they run the Down Syndrome Alliance, the upstate, and they bring in families, and to see the parents smile is really cool too. To see them seeing their kids out there, and we just a lot of kids, and it's stretched obviously to Winston-Salem with McNeil. It's stretched to Kansas with Emery May's son Wyatt and their family. They run the Buddy Walk out there, so it really has picked up. And anyone comes to see these kids and give them a hug. And but the work that McNeil's done, and you featured him on your show last year when we did my hour. I wish you the whole hour would be about McNeil. I mean, you spent a few minutes.
Yeah, when we were doing the lunch and learns.
It was amazing, and I think the response to that really told what Furman student athletes can do.
Yes, incredible. The other one that is always a highlight of the schedule that has already happened before we had a chance to do this was the Gray Griffin game.
Yep, and that was a good game, Al. It's 20 years since that car accident, and Mr. Griffin comes back every year, and it's always nice to win that game and to have a player of the game. But we never want to forget someone who was in our program that passed away way too early, way too early. I mean, but Mr. Griffin comes back, and it's his day to remember his son.
Yep.
And he comes back and he tells the same story or stories, and they're getting bigger and better every year. And you know what? And I said to our guys, I said, this is awesome to see how he still has this much passion for his son. It's 20 years ago, but it is a special day as well, and we'll always have that.
Do things like that, because I know in your position, things can get hectic. Life can intervene, as we're talking about here, but just in the confines of being the head coach of a Division I program, you can get caught up in a lot of different things if you're not careful. Does doing the Gray Griffin game every year and the Quinn game every year, does that help you keep perspective personally?
And it's funny because it's like, that's coming up. It seems like is it work to do? I love those games. I mean, I love the Quinn game, and we've got a lot of help. In fact, I think Sue Eckstein is trying to make it to the athletic department day as well, to bring families in that as well, so they can witness a little bit of that as well. But it's I think when you get the longevity into a program, you can have stuff like this.
Right.
So if you're bouncing around from program to program, you don't get that culture. This culture between our alumni sometimes, rather than coming back to an alumni weekend or to a homecoming, they make the Quinn game their homecoming.
Right.
So they can come support one of their own and his efforts to raise awareness, because they know someone else who has Down syndrome. And they say, I'm going to go back, and they'll invite someone or they'll tell someone to watch it, and that's how it spreads. But it's through that longevity. But you're right, it really says to you, I mean, God, the whole day is just an amazing day of and they're coming in the night before, and now she's in third grade, and she was in your studio. It seemed like yesterday, running around and banging on the walls and all this kind of stuff, and it was just amazing to see her. But I can't wait to see Quinn again. So
it's just a reminder that in all of this day and age we're in, where everything in college sports is changing, and some people say not for the better with the transfer rules and NIL and all this other stuff. It is what it is. But to me, this is just a reminder of, at its core, what athletics is really supposed to be about, and that is changing lives, impacting lives, and teaching young men and young women lessons that are going to stay with them beyond their athletic playing days, because it's going to come to an end for everybody.
Yeah, but while we're here, we have a platform.
Yes.
We have the ability to do what we want to do with our program, with your radio show, with whatever we want to do. I choose to do it this way, and it's my program. And I want to feature my alumni and what they're going through and make it a special day for them. And our young men that are going through this program will realize when they meet Quinn and they meet those kids that have special needs, wait a minute, look how lucky I am, but look what I can do and the impact I can have on a young man or a young lady. You're right, Dan, but we have that platform.
Yeah.
So use it the right way. I mean,
And from what I've seen, your kids have really embraced these opportunities.
they're real hugs.
Yeah.
They're real. There's nothing, I've got to go and hug that kid. Or, I mean, those kids, our kids know a lot of those kids by name.
Right.
that's pretty cool.
It is. It really is. That is coming up on October the 8th, a week from this Saturday. Again, recording this on Tuesday. The conference opener is scheduled for this coming Saturday, October 1st at UNCG. Then the Quinn game is the following week. I'll be on the road at the Citadel with football, so I will not be able to be there, but I'll be there in spirit because and my wife and I, Angela, love the experiences that we've had, and we've gotten a chance to come out and be at that game. All you got to do now is go win, right?
Yep, I'm going to try and win, but I appreciate you.
No pressure.
I appreciate you having me on here. I enjoy this every time, so, it's great to be here in this kind of time of year again, and hopefully with all that COVID behind us and people into school and, the campus buzzing as well, which is always nice to see, and the team's doing well. So,
well, if you knew something other than this foreign sport, we might talk to you more.
Yeah, well, I'll just see you once a year.
No. We're going to do it a lot more than that. That's been Doug Allison with us on this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. And again, just a reminder, if you are here in the area of Furman University's campus, I would highly, highly recommend that you come here to Stone Stadium on October the 8th for the game against Mercer and see what we're talking about, the Quinn game, celebrating young Quinn Cronin and bringing awareness to those with Down syndrome. It is a phenomenal event. If you come to one game a year, and he hopes you come to more, but if you come to one game a year, that's the one you want to be at.
Yeah, please come and see it. Come meet her and give her a hug.
There you go. That will take care of things for this edition of Inside Furman Athletics. We'll be back again next week with another guest and look forward to being back in studio. Until then, for Doug Allison and all of us here at Furman University, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you and so long, everybody.